Microphone. Working, but. So with that, I will turn it over to our Chairman of Finance.
Thank you. Would the Secretary please call the roll?
Director Anderson. Director Colson. Here. Director DeWitt. Here. Director Cottell.
Here.
Director Lewis.
Here.
Director Melvin. Director Troiani.
Here.
Director McGallis.
Here.
We have a quorum of 6 present with 2 absent. If the record would also show that Directors Frega, Fuentes, Higgins, Ross, and Chairman Dillard are all also present.
Thank you. Item number 2 is the approval of the minutes from the meeting held on May 17, 2018. Are there any questions or comments? If not, can we have a motion to approve? Motion by Director Lewis, second by Director Troiani. Roll call.
Director Colson. Yes. Director DeWitt.
Yes.
Director Cottell.
Yes.
Director Lewis.
Yes.
Director Troiani.
Yes.
Director McGallis.
Aye.
6 ayes and 2 absent.
Thank you. Item 3A is the report on the monthly financial results. B.
Good morning, Director McGallis and members of the Finance Committee. Presenting today will be Eva De Laurentiis, who is a principal analyst in our budget office, who does most of this work. So she will be presenting and I will be driving. So let's see how I do driving.
Sorry, not used to this, but was offset by strong expense performance. System ridership through April was 0.2% lower than budget and 3% lower than prior year.
Told you. The mouse does not seem to be working. Okay, so here we go. Let's see.
You might have to.
Okay. No.
Oh, here it is.
Okay, did it come back?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so system ridership through April was 0.2% lower than budget and 3% lower than prior year. As shown by the dashed budget line falling down below the blue bars on the chart, ridership was expected to decrease this year due to the planned fare increases at each service board. Back on the summary table, CTA and PACE ADA reported year-to-date ridership results above budgeted levels, while PACE and Metra recorded ridership shortfalls of 2.2% and 2.7% respectively through April. Moving on to operating revenue. Operating revenue was $4.9 million or 1.3% unfavorable to budget. The shortfall is primarily due to the reduction in the reduced fare reimbursement from the state. Although their 2018 budgets assumed $34 million of reduced fare funding, the service boards are accruing at half that level in order to reflect the most likely outcome in the reported results and recovery ratios. PACE's operating revenue variance was 6% unfavorable, highlighted in red, due to unfavorable fare revenue and reduced fare funding, while ADA paratransit is highlighted in light blue due to favorable fare revenue and favorable ancillary revenue. Moving on to public funding. The public funding section of the dashboard shows a shortfall from budget of 1.5% for the region. March is looking to be another strong sales tax month with results projected to be 7% higher than 2017, prior to the 2% state surcharge. This is promising and similar to the results we saw in January. However, despite the strong sales tax results, public funding is currently $6.9 million unfavorable to the 2018 budget. This is driven largely by unfavorable PTF results due to timing differences. Can you go back? Yeah, there we go. System-wide operating expenses through April were $15.4 million or 1.7% favorable to budget, with all service boards favorable. Metra, PACE, and PACE ADA had a significant unfavorable result in fuel expenses due to both rising fuel prices and increased fuel consumption in cold weather. If you'll remember, we had one of the coldest Aprils on record in addition to the cold winter months. CTA locked in prices for the year, but Metro and Pace are floating with the market. However, all three service boards have done a good job managing expense performance in other categories in light of higher fuel expenses. Metro's results were 3.2% favorable to budget due to the favorability in the operations, maintenance, and administration categories. Pace ADA results were 4.1% favorable to budget, due mostly to favorability in the purchased transportation category. At the regional level, favorable operating expenses generally offset the unfavorable operating revenue, resulting in a net result which was $3.6 million favorable to budget. Only CTA's net result was unfavorable due to the unfavorable PTF and the lower accrual of reduced fare funding, which has a greater impact on their operating revenue than it does the other service boards. Through April, the recovery ratio of 48.9% is favorable to budget by 0.3 percentage points. It is typical to begin the year low due to revenue and expense seasonality, but the recovery ratio is expected to strengthen above the 50% level as the year progresses. It has been increasing each month. The fare recovery ratio of 35.1% and the all revenue recovery ratio of 41.1% were significantly higher than prior year, reflecting the impact of the service board fare increases. In the right section, you'll see that CTA's recovery ratio lags budget by 0.6 points due to their operating revenue shortfall. Metro's recovery ratio was significantly higher than budget, driven by favorable expense performance. In summary, April was a fairly strong month, and to date, the service boards have done a good job controlling costs to offset the reduced fare and PTF funding shortfalls. The RTA will continue to monitor ridership, public funding, and fuel expense in particular in the coming months. This concludes my remarks, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. One of the obvious things is that our service boards are doing their job controlling their expenses, and they're doing it at a time when, to not be doing it, we would have even a bigger problem with the state continuing to charge the new fees that they're charging, and just the PTF cash flow and everything else and the delayed payments. So fortunately, they're able to control their costs. Any other questions or comments from the board? Not? Okay, well, thank you very much. Next item is the semi-annual project management report. B.
So presenting the report will be Violet Gunka-Gurgel, and she will be presenting the project management oversight report that her and her staff prepare semi-annually, working with the service boards to capture all of the data. You received it as part of your board briefing a couple weeks ago, and so she'll just do some of the highlights of the projects. Thank you. Violet?
Thank you, B. We'll wait for the presentation. There it is. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, good morning. Today I'm happy to present the current report on project management oversight. You received the PMO report as part of your board briefing, and it includes details for every project. The report was designed to make it straightforward for our board to easily see progress, issues, and risks for the transit capital projects in our region. The PMO program currently includes oversight for all state-funded transit projects, regardless of budget, and all other projects with budgets of $10 million or more, regardless of funding source. Together, this set of projects for the current reporting period represents $3.8 billion. Please note that the state-funded projects in this report are part of the prior year's capital programs. There has not been a capital bill passed in Illinois since 2009, and the intended level of funding has not been realized. As a bit of a background, RTA implements the PMO program pursuant to Section 2.01B of the RTA Act. RTA is required to oversee the service board's capital programs and expenditures. PMO is part of RTA's fulfillment of this requirement. Specific involvement includes direct reports and meetings with service board's project teams, attendance at other project meetings, project site visits, and periodic reporting to the Illinois Department of Transportation. RTA PMO staff is augmented by engineering and project management consultants who provide necessary expertise as well as additional staff resources. As of the current reporting period, 19 of the 20 projects are on budget. One project, the Wilson Red Line Station, is under budget. 15 of the 20 projects are on schedule. The 5 projects that are behind schedule are the CTA Railcar Rehabilitation, Metra Deering Bridge and Hazel Crest Station, Metra Union Pacific North Line Bridges and Ravenswood Station, and Pace Bus Stop Improvement in the Joliet Gateway Center. The change orders amounts represent cumulative totals for the currently ongoing state-funded projects, and 70% of the region's projects are without change orders. The vast majority of extra cost for change orders has been for added value to the project and unforeseen conditions. The total cost of change orders represents less than 1% of the overall budget for the state-funded projects. For CTA, selected project highlights include 95th Terminal Station project, which remains on schedule and within budget. The South Terminal portion of the station opened in April of 2018. The North Terminal is currently under demolition. The station serves 14 CTA and 5 PACE routes, which amounts to over 1,000 CTA and PACE buses a day. For Metra, the Union Pacific North Line Bridges and Ravenswood Station project is significant in scope and requires coordination between Metra, Union Pacific, and 2 general contractors. 11 bridges will be replaced that are over 100 years old, and a new station will be built for the inbound section of the Ravenswood stop. Ravenswood Station is the busiest stop on this line outside of downtown and will bring new level of comfort, safety, lighting, and landscaping. This station will also be ADA compliant. PACE has been procuring additional 40-feet compressed natural gas buses. This contract allows PACE to procure a minimum of 91 CNG buses. All original 91 buses have been ordered and delivered under this contract and placed in service. A change order for additional 11 buses funded by 3 FTA grants has been executed for this contract. 5 of the 11 have been delivered in May 2018, with remaining 6 expected to be delivered this month. This concludes my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I think it's a good report. Obviously, when you have 95% of the projects are on budget, and the only one that's not is under budget, I mean, that's great news. I guess the worst news out of all this document is when you tell us the last time, remind us, I guess, the last time we had a capital bill was 2009. Mr. Chairman, your crystal ball, what's going to happen with the state in providing capital funds?
Obviously, there's a gubernatorial election, but I think regardless of who's elected, there'll be a capital bill shortly after the first of the year. Jeremy's here as well to chime in, but there has to be one, and there's pressure not only from mass transit, but from other groups to get a capital bill.
Yeah, I would just second that. I mean, everybody's expectation is that after the first year, post-elections, all the momentum says there will be a capital bill. Who knows?
Well, I would look forward to that. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Yes, Director Frega.
I just want to compliment I would like to compliment the project management oversight report. It is really a good report, very thorough, and I'm very happy that we're getting more compressed natural gas buses. That's the future of the country here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director.
Okay, and no other comments. We'll move on to item 4A, which is an ordinance authorizing the execution of federal funding allocation agreements with northwestern Indiana, southeastern Wisconsin, and amending the 2018 through 2022 capital program and extending the ICE funding projects. Jill.
Thank you. I'm going to turn this over to Dave Spacek. He's going to give the report on the long mouthful that you just said.
I always come with a lot of acronyms. Good morning.
Good morning.
Director McGallis, members of the Finance Committee. Staff is requesting board approval of 3 ordinances today. The first ordinance authorizes the execution of the full federal fiscal year 2018 federal formula allocation attachments to the letter of understanding between Northeastern Illinois, Northwestern Indiana, and Southeastern Wisconsin. The second ordinance amends the 2018-2022 capital program and incorporates changes in the program revenue and expenses for CTA and Metra. The third ordinance approves time extensions for the implementation of 2 CTA, 1 METRA, and 1 PACE Innovation Coordination and Enhancement, otherwise known as ICE, funded projects. I'll provide a brief background or overview of each of these ordinances. Ordinance related to the federal fiscal year 2018 FTA full year formula funding apportionments. The Fixing of America's Surface Transportation FAST Act, enacted December 4, 2015, authorizes federal transportation funding to the regional urbanized areas for federal fiscal years 2016 through 2020. On May 8, the Federal Transit Administration published the full federal fiscal year 2018 apportionments for the 4 federal funding programs that fund our capital program. We are pleased to report that the apportionment to the region for 2018 grew by 7.7% over 2017. The RTA, as a designated recipient of these funds, first sub-allocates the funding splits in the region between northeastern Illinois, southeastern Wisconsin, and northwestern Indiana. The portion to northeastern Illinois is then split between the service boards in accordance with historically established shares by federal program, except for the Section 5310 program, funds which go directly to the RTA for competitive distribution within the region. These regional funding splits were approved by the CMAP Policy Committee on June 14th. It was brought to my attention that there are duplicates of the apportionment splits attachments for Southeastern Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission in your committee packet. While Director Redden signs 2 copies of these, there should have only been 1 for your reference. My apologies for this confusion. The ordinance related to the 2018-2022 capital program funding changes. The total funding increase to the 2018 capital program is $41.13 million, which turns out $26.76 million for CTA and $14.37 million for METRA. This increase reflects the additional 2018 federal formula funds to the region for CTA and METRA. PACE will apply for their increase at a later date. An Environmental Protection Agency grant to CTA and additional CTA Service Board funds. The details of the funding increase are included in the capital program schedules 2A and 2B attached to the ordinance. For the out years of the program, there are no changes to the program's total funds and sources of revenue. CTA's proposed capital program amendment. CTA's proposed $26.76 million capital program amendment is based on 1, a $24.51 million increase to their federal fiscal year 2018 federal formula funds, 2, $1.86 million in additional service board funds, 3, the award of a $400,000 EPA grant, and 4, the redistribution of existing funds to higher priority projects. All the projects impacted by this amendment are presented in the ordinance request memo, but the major changes include an additional $23.95 million in additional federal funding for the purchase of additional 7,000 series rail cars, an additional $10.24 million for the purchase of replacement non-revenue diesel locomotives, and an additional $0.89 million in EPA and service board funds to purchase additional electric buses to replace overaged diesel buses. METRA's proposed capital program amendment. METRA's proposed amendment is based on an overall increase of $14.37 million in federal fiscal year 2018 federal formula funds. All these additional federal funds will be used to purchase new gallery cars to replace those that are well beyond their useful life. And finally, the ordinance related to the 2018 ICE project time extension requests. A 12-month time extension for 2 CTA, 1 METRA, and 1 PACE ICE projects is proposed. A brief description of the projects is provided in the ordinance request memo. No additional funding is being requested, and staff has reviewed the requests and find them justified. Be happy to address any questions you may have regarding these ordinances.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? A lot of this is housekeeping and things that has already been approved by the other reviewing agencies. If not, could we have a motion and a second to approve? Motion by Director Trani, second by Director Melvin. Roll call.
Director Anderson?
Yes.
Director Colson? Yes. Director DeWitt?
Yes.
Director Cotel?
Yes.
Director Lewis?
Yes.
Director Melvin?
Yes.
Director Troiani?
Yes.
Director McGallis?
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments for the committee? If not, motion to adjourn. Motion by Director Trani, second by Director Lewis. All in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Nays? Ayes have it. The committee is adjourned. Thank you.
do.
All right, I get to hit the gavel. Call to order the